Hey everybody, this is Perch. My voice sounds a little weird, at least to me. Don't know if it's coming out that way. I've been coughing like continuously now for days because Texas sucks. Allergies, I don't know. Just it's like some massive allergies slash like asthma that I never knew I had kind of world. It's awful. Or maybe I've got some new mutated version of the Rona, but all I can know is I fly a lot and I'm coughing and sniffing and just feeling miserable. And then I fly literally anywhere else and I'm better. Like it all goes away. Feeling great. And then, sure enough, fly back into this place, back to the coughing, and here we are. Anyway, I what can you do? So let's read an email. Dear Perch, why are so many people in comics so effing weird? It seems like comics seems to attract the strangest collection of poor personality, strange psychopaths that cannot control themselves online or anywhere else for that matter. Comic books really does seem to attract nut jobs. Why is this? You would think that an industry, pardon me, you would think that an industry that makes stories about superheroes and good guys would have a good idea of what good guys and superheroes are and not a bunch of weird shut-in lunatics. Why are comic creators this way? I'm honestly puzzled. All right. Why are they that way? I tell a bunch of my friends who are listening to this, like for example, like Jim's up, like the nicest guy on planet Earth, is like, what the hell? Right now, listening to this. Um, well, look, okay, so why are comic creators weird? Look, I do think that if you take professions, comic creators probably definitely skew more on the spectrum than other jobs. Not all other jobs, but a lot of other jobs. Like if you know the guy who tends to the lodge up in Alaska through the winter, not The Shining, but like The Shining, right? Only doesn't go crazy and tries to murder his family, just enjoys it. That's probably a weirder, more um more crazy personality. Although some days, especially days where I'm coughing like a bastard in Texas, that just sounds like heaven. If I could just get a job, literally just tending the lodge in Alaska, that would be wonderful. Hanging out, drinking whiskey with ghosts, it sounds great. Um, but think about it for a moment. So, I did the video around. I do think comic creators should have a better sense of what superheroes are because it's their job. It's what they do, and so they should have a better sense of good and evil. And I'm always puzzled when creators do something thoroughly weird. I'm not talking like go to jail, kind of weird for pedophilia, like who. I'm talking like just like the trolling horseshit that Dan Slott will do online. That's just being a dick, and you're being a dick. I'm not talking losing your temper once in a while. Like Philip Kennedy Johnson lost his temper on somebody who was bitching about him writing a story with Nazis in it uh, during a story that was set in World War II. Um, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that would break any man or woman. But I'm talking like just being a dick online. Like, who was the creator that sent the guy a picture of his butthole? Like, at some point, um, you're doing this as a Spider Woman artist. Is that who it was? Anyway, or Spider Gwen. I don't know. Anyway, this is ancient history, but at some point when you're kind of maneuvering your phone around to like you've pulled down your pants, you've positioned your butt so that you can get your hand up and around. You're checking a bunch of the photos because you've got shadows in some of them, and you just got to get the right lighting on your butthole. Like at some point when you're finding the perfect shot of your anus and then you're sending it, that doesn't happen quickly. It's not like a spontaneous spur of the moment kind of decision. That's something that's going to take some effort unless you are well practiced, and in which case my point still holds. But I just like at some point during that process, your inner voice, the angel on your shoulder, has to speak up and be like, "Hey, this is a bad idea." you're acting like a crazy person. Like, with that kind of wheezy, hillbilly hick voice that like you just would think, right? And so I think there are a higher percentage of just dicks like that, or people are just maladjusted to humans. And the reason why is obvious. Look, this comics is a profession where you can do it on your own without seeing people. If you like being an introvert, if you like, not really talking to people, if you like staring at a page as an artist for 8 hours a day, you can lose your marbles. I mean, or you could become very, very bad at humaning with other humans. It's why, and man, some of you are going to hate me for this, but it is a thing. When new mothers go on maternity leave and they basically stay at home and they care for the baby, and if it's a long maternity leave, and their basic companionship for the majority of that time is a kind of drooling, dependent infant that shits in its diaper and suckles all day and sleeps and cries, and you get used to making like weird cooing noises and chirpy noises and other things, and then you go back to work, like maternity leave is over, and then you have to go back to the office, and there's an adjustment period, and a lot of mothers will tell you it's like I went from isolation with somebody who didn't speak English and was fully dependent on me, who would kind of drool, and I would go, oh baby baby, like that, and now I'm in here talking finance. Like your mind doesn't immediately snap back. You have to. This is not me making an argument for women to not be in the workplace. It's saying that if you get into a situation that dramatically changes the people around you, it's going to have an impact. And that's why you see a lot of people coming off maternity leave ease back into work. Before they go back to work, they have friends come over, peps groups or whatever, to kind of re-socialize. That's the idea. Well, a lot of comic creators don't. They didn't like to socialize. They didn't really socialize, and so when you see them kind of losing their shit online or at a con or wherever, there's a reason for that. They don't human. They don't spend a lot of time humaning. And that's not all of them, of course. There's plenty that do just fine. But it's not, there's not some deep seated kind of liberal seed of evil, although a lot of people in the creative profession are definitely liberal, because the writers and artists tend to be liberal as it goes. But it's not a plot to kind of churn out psychopaths. It is the nature of a job where people don't interact with other human beings very much, and as a result aren't good at it, and are prone to kind of weird outbursts and just doing strange things. That's what's going on. It's a little bit why when you had the old bullpen and people who were, going to an office, you have like the Walt Simonson studio and you had regular people going around. What do you know? Those people are more adjusted, and the people who, lived in isolation by themselves, less adjusted. Not all of them, you know. I like I'm not going to name names here, but there's plenty of people I like in comics who are really, a joy to be around. Thoughtful, funny, and maybe not used to being around big crowds all the time, but just, reasonable, good people. And they don't do weird ass shit. But that, they just know how to handle that lifestyle better than others. I do think there is a increasing problem where you take the combination of people who maybe didn't have the best parenting. Maybe their biggest parent was, an iPad or an iPhone. And now they're entering the workforce, but they're able to kind of work from home because they entered the workforce during COVID. So they were allowed to, never really integrate. They're used to seeing the entire world through Zoom, where they can be super weird. I have a lot of friends in the gaming industry, and a lot of people in gaming are video gaming in this place, not a cool kind of gaming like Vegas, but in the gaming industry where they're basically shut-ins, and they have developed the weirdest ass personality traits. I mean, weird. And it's you take people away from people, and they don't help because you're not helping their case to be normal. That's it. well, Perch, what do you mean normal? Like, what does that people have to be? I mean, just being able to conduct yourself in a normal place. This hits home for me because I went to Jimmy John's to get a sandwich, and the person in front of me was staring and staring and staring, and then finally, a person's like, "Hey, what do you want?" And the guy was like, "Up to a number eight," kind of like started rapidly stammering, and then it's like, "Oh my god, I just can't!" He just like yelled, he's like, I can't," and then he just stomps out of the restaurant. And I'm like, okay, well, that person is not around other human beings very much. By the way, this is not me being insensitive. There are people who are on the spectrum, have abilities. There's all this certainly, but what is true is that when you get people and you don't give them a lot of, they don't spend a lot of time with other people, they develop weird habits. And, you know, thus comics. And there you have it. Mystery solved. Thanks for listening.